Our next Zen lesson is on the concept of white space, which is having emptiness on a slide to declutter slides so they're not just so densely packed with so much information. And what I'm going to play with here is four variations on a theme of one slide presented four different ways. And that's really a design principle too, is the ability to iterate. Usually the first time you design it, it's your first draft. We need to do a second draft, a third draft, and new things start to creep in as we iterate. And so hopefully when we create a presentation, we revisit it and we declutter it and we put some more images in and we try to make them more Zen each time we teach it. So here's the classic PowerPoint. You probably even recognize this PowerPoint theme. And I have a picture of Frank Lloyd Wright and his famous quote, "Space is the breath of art." Which is a very Zen statement about white space. Now, we have a little feng shui problem here, and it's about eye gaze. If you remember about eye gaze, if we look at Frank Lloyd Wright's face and we follow his eyes, he's looking away from his quote, and off the screen. It's kind of the same feng shui concept when you decorate your house, is that you don't like have people looking into a corner because that's bad chi in the room. So this is just an ugly slide that PowerPoint creates for us because we're supposed to put a title in and we're supposed to put bullets in. I have no idea why this bullet is a lime-colored teardrop, but it makes me cry. Here's the same picture, and I used a Zen strategy of stretching it beyond the screen. So let me go back, look at the picture. I just stretched it super big. And now we're using eye gaze where Frank Lloyd Wright, while he looks like he's looking directly at me, he is also kind of looking across his quote, "Space is the breath of art." I think it's a much, much better slide. It's more Zen, and it makes me connect with the architect more than the first one did. We can iterate this again, and we could create, this is the falling water house kind of in an architectural drawing, and this might connect with people who are really drawn to the shapes and the architecture rather than the face. And once again, the same quote is there. And this slide is very Zen because it's very white space. There's a lot of white, there's a lot of breath in this, and it lets me appreciate the simple lines of his famous house. Here's a playful look at this very same house, this time with the Lego architectural series of Falling Water, and we have the same quote. With certain audiences, that might work. If I'm trying to teach Zen principles to elementary school students, I'm using this one. And then here's a famous, one of his famous stained glass windows, which kind of turns stained glass windows a little bit on their head. We're used to kind of the cathedral style stained glass window where it's a riot of color. And notice how much blank space, how much clear glass is in his stained glass windows. And it lets us appreciate those little bits of color all the more. Space is the breath of art. Please use space. Let things breathe. So let's translate this to some other areas of our lives. Emails. Here's an email that we very easily could have gotten. I made up this email, but we could see something like this. Paragraphs of text all smashed together with a complex series of instructions on if we have a fire drill. It's overly wordy, and these are the kind of emails that, admit it, we like glance at and then hit the delete key, and then we missed out on some things. So let's Zen this, and let's just use space, and let's turn some of the important words a different color to highlight them. I think you're going to have more people read an email when it looks like this because I can efficiently move through it and I don't have big blocks of text to read through. See what you can do with your emails to make them more Zen. Another Zen principle, those of you who use Moodle, there's something called the never-ending Moodle scroll of death, which is when you keep adding resources, and students to find them are scrolling down forever trying to find it. There's some simple things that you can do with Moodle, and maybe you could take some of Terry Osland's Moodle Mania classes to brush up on this. But one of them is a very easy one. It's called Collapse Topics, and on the screen it tells you the instructions on how to get there and turn it on. But you have the ability to collapse entire sections so that it minimizes that scroll of death. Maybe something to try during your tech camp time. Rubrics are another way that we can use space and we can arrange things a little neater. Get familiar with tables. Start playing with tables a little bit and create a rubric that. Now we should just note something. There are bullets on the screen, and I did use bullets because I wanted to very quickly state the essential things that were needed inside of each of these categories. But notice there is white space as well, and that white space might be a good place for me to write some comments back to the students on. I can score each of these sections very easily. I used a rubric that I think is very easy for students to understand. It's the free throw rubric. Everything from nothing but net. That was a pretty, not only did the shot go in, but it made the swoosh. And it was just beautiful when it happened. This is an important distinction, I think, for kids to understand. Either your shot went in, it might have been ugly, you might have banked it in, it might have rolled around on the rim a little bit before it went in, but it went in versus, you missed the shot, you didn't score a point. And then there's the dreaded air ball where we're just way off. And on this rubric, I decided to add another category that they didn't even try to take a shot. So I wanted to make sure that students got points for at least an attempt. Look at some of the rubrics we're creating for students, and is there a way that you can use some of these Zen principles to clean those up and maybe increase student comprehension of what that is? I wonder what a rubric would look like if it had images in it that describe some of the things that you were trying to achieve. I bet that'd be the best rubric in the world. Here's an example of a handout that I made for my students when they FRQ, which is write essays in my government classes. And I used to have this big story and paragraphs of text, and I noticed students never ever looked at it again. But I just simplified it into a do list and a don't list, and I tried to make it as short as possible. I used a little shading in alternating rows to help guide their eye, and to make sure that it was clear what text went with which. And I think they really understand this better. It's a way of using white space, decluttering, and making my handouts more Zen. So things in the Copy Center can be Zen. It's not just a Google presentation. It's not just a PowerPoint. It's not just a website or a Moodle presence.